What up, everybody? After season 3, episode 6, the writing's on the wall with Diamond Samson going back to prison at the end of the 4th series. Diamond went to prison before back in 2005 and served 15 years in prison for a bad badge that he put out in the streets that killed 5 people. In addition to the 5 people who died from the bad badge, other people were affected as well, like Seamus's sister, who is basically being kept alive in a hospital as a vegetable, and in my opinion, that's even worse. And this is the whole reason why Seamus kept trying to extort Diamond for money in seasons 1 and 2, claiming it was for his sister's medical bills. And we saw a situation like this already play out before in Raising Kanan, season 1, when Kanan put a bad batch out on the streets that killed, I believe, 12 people. And Kanan would have went to prison for the same thing that Diamond did if it wouldn't have been for his father, Detective Malcolm Howard, getting ahead of the case. But now in Force season 3, as Diamond is starting to go back to his old ways, we see exactly why Diamond got locked up for putting the bad batch out on the streets in the first place. Because in episode 6, Jannar convinced Diamond to get into the Fetty business so they can start cutting their product with it after Manny Fresh told Jannar that they could cut their product up to 9 to 10 times using the Fetty. And Diamond ultimately agreed, not willing to pass that kind of money up. So we can see that greed is a potential downfall for Diamond. Keeping in mind that Tommy has literally given away over $3 million in the last few episodes. $1.5 million to Stacey Marks, $1 million to Elise, and $500,000 to Miguel, in addition to the money that Diamond and Tommy had to pay Che for burning down Miguel's warehouse, and also the $25,000 that Tommy gave to Alicia. And with Diamond being Tommy's partner, he's made the same amount of money that Tommy's made, so he at least has $3 million plus stacked up somewhere. Not to mention, they already have a cartel connection, and they're getting the purest coke in the city of Chicago. Now he wants to even step on that product 9 to 10 times, cutting it with the Fetty. Something that Tommy would never be down with, going back to season 1, when he said he doesn't move no trash ever. And this could be part of the reason why Tommy has survived so many years in the game, because he knows better than to make those kind of mistakes, put a bad product out on the streets that could end up dropping bodies. Even going back to OG Power season 3, where Lobos only sent half the product and Julio suggested cutting the product so they could have the weight for all their premieres, and Tommy said no. And ultimately, when Dylan and the Koreans cut their product and Tommy found out about it, he confronted them, and Dylan's father made him cut his finger off for cutting the product. So Tommy takes this type of thing very serious, and Diamond already knows that, and that's why he made the move to connect with the Fetty behind Tommy's back. But just to show how much Diamond has changed and started to go back to his old ways since getting out of prison, keep in mind, in season 1, Diamond refused to deal with Dahlia, saying that they didn't know what was on the other side of it, and if bodies were gonna start dropping. And he specifically said that he wasn't gonna mess with something that could put him back in prison. So now Diamond has basically made a complete 180, going back to his old ways since season 1. And that kind of also explains why Jannar was so pissed off when Diamond got out of prison and had changed. That's because the old Diamond, the Diamond that Jannar was expecting to come home, was practically a completely different person. as Diamond and CBI are about to get into the Fetty game after connecting with Madam Wu and the real plugged thugs in Chinatown who have the purest Fetty in Chicago. The feds are also looking into who brought the Fetty into Chicago. Keeping in mind a couple episodes ago, Bobby DeFranco brought it to the attention of Stacy Marks and her team that he had caught a case with 9 Fetty-related deaths at a Durang frat house. 2 of those deaths being social influencers. So the press was supposed to be all over the case, and the CPD as well as the feds wanted answers to who it was bringing the Fetty into Chicago. And at that point in time, the feds thought it was the Marquez cartel because there had been an uptick in Fetty-related deaths on the north side that went along with the timeline of the Marquez cartel arriving in Chicago. But now we know unless the Marquez cartel is connected to the real plugged thugs in Chinatown, that has nothing to do with them. Either though there's still that connection of how the Marquez lawyer Chan took out Mirkovich in episode 1. And in addition to the bodies that dropped at the frat house and on the north side, also keep in mind that Jannard gave Joey a test bag a couple episodes ago that Joey died from. And after Jannard grabbed that bag and then threw it back over towards Joey, leaving his fingerprints on the bag. So that's something that could definitely come back into play as the feds are looking into who was behind putting the Fetty on the streets. And now we know from the episode 7 trailer that Tommy and Diamond are going to fight in episode 7 as Tommy will get kicked out of CBI and become a lone wolf this episode. And it's most likely over the fact that Tommy will refuse to cut the product with the Fetty, no matter what kind of vote Diamond gets against him. But one thing that Diamond doesn't know that Tommy's keeping from him right now is that Tommy has Stacy Marks in his pocket. Tommy hasn't told this to Diamond yet, and the trailer shows Tommy talking to Stacy Marks, telling her that he's gonna bring all his cases to her. So basically, Tommy's gonna start trying to be like a mecha type, giving law enforcement information to eliminate his competition. And this is going back to what his father, Tony Teresi, taught him in OG Power, that a rat is only a rat if he rats on someone he should be loyal to. If you inform on somebody that you don't give two about to advance your own cause, that's just business. So after Tommy splits from CBI and becomes a lone wolf, I think he could potentially give Stacy Marks the job when Diamond is going to be meeting with Madam Wu for a re-up. And Stacy Marks and the feds will bust Diamond while he's making a deal with Madam Wu and ultimately end up pinning some of the bodies that have dropped on Diamond as well, potentially sending Diamond back to prison for life. But there's also a thing when it comes to Diamond going back to prison, and that's if Diamond's gonna go down easy and without a fight. Because earlier in the video I brought up the parallel between Diamond and Kanan, both putting a bad batch out on the streets that kill people. And even though Kanan didn't go to prison at that point in time, he did later on go to prison for 10 years after being set up by Ghost and Tasha, and said that he wasn't going to go back, and proved it when he got into a gunfight with the cops to try to avoid going back to prison when they killed him. In the same type of way, in season 2, when Diamond's parole officer, Mr. Reeves, walked into the barber shop,
I gotta charge my phone.
Diamond sitting in there with money and product everywhere.
Charge my
They were
phone.
going to cuff Diamond and bring him back to prison. Diamond killed him and said he's not going back to prison. So there's definitely a chance that we could also see Diamond go out like Kanan did. But at the end of the day,
We can
I
pinch.
think we of this series, before Diamond even got out of prison the first time, and he was given the old man Marty